Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video, I will be going over the T4 rankings for Brotherhood 2.0, meaning no more Sabretooth, no more Mystique, insert Blob and Toad. These rankings are from YETI and myself. We have two different columns we look over, and I'm going to be going over the abilities quickly and then going over the list. And I promise you, I'll drop the list pretty quick after this intro, so if that's all you're interested in, you can check it out. We'll also have that infographic posted on our on the Discord channel, and it'll make its way around different Discords and the Ultron bots and all that kind of thing too. So anyway, hope you enjoy, hope it helps.
WolverThor.
All right, as promised, before I go over everything, here is the list. You can see it. Column for WolverThor, column for YETI. We've got a T4 priority order, 1 through 20. And we've got general classifications. Essential, really good, solid, got T4s to spare, nothing else to use them on, and just don't. In the parentheses, you'll see a damage rank and adjacent all or primary targets, so you can understand what the damage increase is, and sometimes I'll drop in there what turn they're used as well. So you can see the difference between the two of us. Hope you enjoy. Pause it right now if you want to look at it further. Otherwise, I'll be on the Discord. Now to the T4 abilities. All right, first off, let's go through the new tunes. Basic for Blob, you get an additional 40% damage and an additional 5% slow on the speed bar when he uses that. For his special, you will see that he copies all positive effects from Brotherhood allies to this character, attacks primary target for an additional, 60% damage, and all adjacents for another 60% damage. The ultimate, you attack primary and all adjacent targets for an additional, 80% damage. And then his passive is, on spawn, you gain offense up for 2 turns. When a Brotherhood ally drops below, blah, 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 blah. But the actual increase is an additional 10% resistance. Brotherhood allies also gain 10% resistance. And you gain an additional 10% chance to counterattack. And an additional 10% chance to counterattack per Brotherhood ally. It's a change from 75% chance to counterattack to a 125% chance to counterattack. So now let's check out Toad. All right, for Toad, it's an attack. You increase the damage for the primary target by 50%. You still do the same offense down for 1 turn and slow for 2 turns. Toad's special, you attack the primary and adjacent targets for an additional 50% damage. Each target has its negative effects prolonged. That does not change. Ultimate for Toad is you clear, instead of 2 negative effects, you clear all negative effects from self. Apply taunt and defense up to an allied blob, which doesn't change. You attack the primary target for an additional 30% damage. You continue to clear the 2 positive effects, and instead of chaining to 3 targets, you chain to an additional 4 to 5 adjacent targets for an additional 30% damage. And you also continue to clear the 2 positive effects on each target. If Blob is an ally, you attack the primary and secondary targets for an additional 30% damage. His passive, you gain 5% damage or dodge chance. Nothing else changes there, so I'm not going to go ahead and read through that. In war, you gain additional 10% focus, as well as your Brotherhood allies gaining an additional 10% focus. Now, in case you forgot the rest of the Brotherhood, I'm going to go through those really quick. First up, obviously, the leader of the group, Magneto. Your increased damage to the primary target is an additional 30%. Chain to 1 to 2 additional targets for an additional 30%. His special. Now this one's an important one that I'll discuss when we're going back and forth on the rankings. Additional damage to the primary target by another 30%. Now this is the big one. Remove, instead of 2 positive effects, you remove all positive effects from the enemy. So that's a big jump from 2 to all of them. His ultimate, basically it's an increased damage by 30%, and his passive, the only changes are you gain additional 10% resistance, as well as the Brotherhood allies gain additional 10% resistance, and both Magneto and Brotherhood allies gain an additional 10% focus. Magneto and Brotherhood allies also gain an additional 10% health as well. All right, Pyro. Basic, it's an additional 30% damage. Special, and this is a good one. You get an additional 40% damage, and you apply bleeds instead of 1 turn, you apply it for 2 turns. His ultimate, you get an additional 40% damage, and you apply disrupted instead of for 1 turn, you will apply it for 2 turns, and that will come into play with some of the abilities we're going to talk about when we go over this list. Passive upgrade, you get an additional 5% focus, and when he is attacked, instead of filling your speed bar by 10%, you get an additional 5% for filling up the speed bar by 15%. All right, and last but not least, Juggernaut. His basic upgrade, you get an additional 40% damage to the primary target, and you gain +1 charge up to a maximum of 4 with, instead of an 80% chance to gain energy, 100% chance to gain energy. So a little bit of extra there, which is kind of nice. Special, the addition here is from 1 to 2 regens. So instead of 1 regen, you get 2. That's the only change in this. Spoiler, that sucks. Ultimate, this is a damage increase from, 60% to primary and all adjacent targets. And then for the passive, what do we got here? The changes here are if Magneto is an ally, when enemy attacks this character, fill speed bar by an additional 5%. So instead of 15, 20. And you also gain an additional 5% resistance. So those are the 2 changes in his passive. So now let's look at the rankings. All right, let's go through this list. So coming in at number 20, both YETI and myself agree that Juggernaut Special, where you get that additional regen, is just don't even touch it. Don't waste your time. Coming in at 19th, Pyro's Passive. We both agree on that one. My comment is unneeded focus, small speed increase, and YETI says the bonuses here are outdated and are really not relevant for matches. At 18, I've got Pyro's Basic, which is 196 in damage increase to the adjacents. I said, meh, damage increase. YETI's got Magneto's Basic, and basically you can see here at 17, we're just flip-flopping the 2 of these. He says helps for a bit more damage, but a very minor increase for the investment. At 17, I've got the same one, Magneto's Basic, and he's got Pyro's Basic. His comment for Pyro's Basic is helps him deal more damage, but a very minor increase for the investment, and I agree. Coming in at 16th, I have Toad's Passive. I just said I don't see the real benefit. He's got Magneto Ultimate. Increased damage is nice. At 15, I've got, and you can see again another flip-flop here for YETI and I, so we're pretty in alignment so far. I've got Magneto's Ultimate. I say mad damage increase, but it is to everybody. He says Toad's Passive. The added focus is nice, and the increased dodge rate is a good bonus for a damage dealer. At 14th, we both agree on Juggernaut's Passive. I say minor resistance increase, slight add for speed when hit. He says a minor improvements to speed, but the speed bar fill rate does not accumulate nicely, which I also agree with. At 13, so at 13, I've got Toad's Basic. It comes in ranked 93rd in the damage increases for T4s. It's just to a primary target. That's my comment, is an okay damage increase. This is where we start to stray a little bit. YETI's got Blob's Passive a little bit lower. These yellow ones, that's kind of like if you've got extras. His comment is the added resistance is always helpful, but counterattack means a lot. If the target had disrupted, but it's conditional. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute, about how he's talking about with the disrupted and conditional. Coming in at 12, I've got Juggernaut's Basic. The damage increase, or the damage rank there, is 126 to the primary target. I say okay damage increase, but it does guarantee energy. He's got Toad's Special. This is very nice damage increase for the investment, especially the splash damage. And then up above that, I've got Toad Ultimate, and it comes in ranked at the 187th increase, or damage ranked increase in the game, and that's for adjacents. My comment is okay damage increase and not convinced negative effects clears matter here, because the reason I say that is this is a turn 1 ability. He's pretty fast, so unless you're using this on turn 2, unless someone comes spawned with a way to give someone a negative effect. I'm not really seeing that. His number 11th, Yeti's number 11th is Toad Basic. Very nice damage increase for the investment. Then I've got the Toad Special, which is just a couple spots higher than Yeti. I say, okay, damage increase. That comes in ranked at the 94th best ranked damage increase in the game. He's got Juggernaut's Basic, a couple spots higher than where I had it. So those are basically the two that we flip-flopped. While the damage increase is decent, the extra energy for Juggernaut can allow him to potentially ultimate twice in a match, which is a very good point. And you would love to be able to pull that off. Coming in at 9th. So this is probably where we're going to have one of the biggest changes. So I've got Magneto's Special here. I say an okay damage increase. My comment here is need full clear of the positive effects. We'll get into this a little bit more when we read Yeti's. My obviously position is where I use them. I'm not needing that very much. Obviously Yeti's got it in a different spot, and we'll go over his as well. So he changes the class, or he jumps into the green categories here, which the blues are solid. The light greens are the really goods. His Blob Special says, again, given this team is all about adjacent damage, this is a really nice increase. At 8, I've got Blob's Basic, and he also has Blob's Basic. We have a slightly different classification for him, but we've got it in the same spot. My comment is okay damage increase. The combo with Pyro, and this combo concept comes from Yeti. He's the one who figured this out. And it's a very interesting concept. So the combo with Pyro Ultimate, which gives an additional turn of disrupts, and Blob's passive, which guarantees a counter, could be fun. I personally am a bit worried about Juggernaut taunting and pulling away. So basically the way this works is if you have Pyro's Ultimate T forward, you get 2 turns of disrupt. Blob's Basic, which will be used for counterattacks, which get an increase with his passive, and a guarantee means that you're going to get some speed reduction on each tune. So if a tune attacks you, then you get to you counterattack and reduce, given that they have a disrupt, which comes from Pyro. So it's a very cool kind of like tripod there. My concern a little bit is the fact that Juggernaut's going to likely taunt with his first turn ability, whether it's the AI or you. So that was where I'm like, I wasn't sure there, but it's an interesting concept to play with. Again, Yeti's got Blob's Basic is the number 8th ability as well. With the while the damage increase is decent, the real winner here is reducing the speed bar with Pyro Ultimate, which is what I was talking about. And again, credit to Yeti for kind of figuring out that trifecta there. Number 7, I've got Blob's Passive, guaranteed counter as a taunter. I liked it. Pretty nice there to be able to do that. Yeti had his a bit lower, but again, that was one of our bigger switches, similar with the Magneto Special. I liked it there if you're doing the trifecta and that guaranteed counter. And again, if you only got 3 or 4 stars on Blob, which you're probably going to have at this point, I'd probably lower it and not do it right away. At 7, Yeti's got Pyro's Ultimate, and he says, due to Blob's Basic, 2 turns of Disrupted helps manage your opponents, but it's a nice damage increase for the ability. And again, I talked about that. The 2 turns of Disrupted with that Blob Basic on the counters is pretty sweet. Coming in at number 6, I've got Blob's Special. It comes in ranked at the 46th best damage increase in the game, and it's for all adjacent targets. It's turn 2. He's got Toad's Ultimate, which is a big difference from where I had it. His comment here is the self-cleanse, added damage, and dramatically increased chain targets allow the ability to be shining light for the team. So this could be a very good ability for Toad to jump around a little bit more. So definitely keep an eye on that. That is something that he and I have slightly different. Depending on how that played out, I might be willing to bring it up, but I wasn't loving the negative clears given how early it was. But the self-cleanse he does like, and the additional chains he really likes given the jump there. Coming in at number 5, I've got Pyro's Ultimate, just a couple spots different than Yeti. I mentioned the Disrupt 2 turns, pretty nice, and then mentioned the combo again with Blob's Basic and his passive for speed meters. He's got Blob's Ult at 5th. He says, and he now calls this one Essential, and he says, given this team is all about adjacent damage, this is a monstrous increase of damage, which is right, because I've got right above there Blob's Ultimate, which comes in as the 15th ranked best damage increase in the game for T4. And that's turn 1. That's a really good damage increase. I also call this essential. While I have it one spot higher, it's because of what I'm about to talk about with YETI. In his spot, which he's got Magneto Special. So he's got Magneto Special as an essential in number 4. And his comment is, I value this ability highly to suppress high value targets who I cannot afford to gain buffs. Due to low cooldowns, this matters a lot with remove all positive effects. So it's a very interesting point. I think he's got a very valid point there. And if you're looking to remove all positive effects and make sure that whoever you're targeting does not gain additional ones, this does come in very nicely. Coming in at number 3, we both agree Juggernaut's ultimate. I say nice damage. His comment is, this is one of the very big reasons why Juggernaut is on the team. You want it doing as much damage as possible. Totally agree. And it comes ranked in as the 48th best damage increase in the game and affects all adjacent targets. Coming in at number 2, we both agree. Pyro Special, the damage rank on this one is 142. 2 bleeds, 2-turn bleed is great. He says absolutely critical ability for this team to function. The second turn of bleed is clutch. Totally agree. And coming at number 1, we both agree Magneto's passive. My comment is focus and HP gain for all. And YETI's comment is, this is the one ability that brought the team to fame and contributes to allow the team to be so savage in battle. I do not know of another ability that provides more positive effects for team. Totally agree. Magneto's passive is clutch and critical. So you can see some of the differences where Magneto's special, I think we had, what was it, Blob's special weren't too far apart. Blob's passive, we had a few spots different. But all in all, we were generally pretty linked, especially with the tops outside. At least the top 3, we were perfectly in alignment. So if you got a question about what you want to build here, we're pretty in sync. Use this list. Hopefully it helps you. And especially figure out how you want to bring Toad and Blob into this team and whether you want to put T4s into them. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Definitely check out YETI's content. He's all over Discord. Great guy, really smart, really works hard on trying to knock down Ultimus 7 and figure out some stuff there. And as you can see, he's really knowledgeable in the game as far as how teams and kind of coordinate and work together. So hammer down that like button, share with your alliance mates. And until next time, I hope you have a fantastic day.